So I wanted to share a really subtle insight, distinction around self-creation with you guys. Something that came into my awareness through a conversation with my friend Becky the other day. I was sharing with her a question that I've been asking myself and hadn't figured out the answer to. So I'll share the question I was asking was, how am I being the bottleneck in the growth of our business? And that for me was a question that I've been asking myself a lot recently, thinking consciously that was an empowered question, a powerful question, and thinking consciously that I was asking it sincerely. And when the moment she shared her suggestion for me, which I'll share in a minute, like the whole matrix of what I'd been creating through asking that question unfolded for me. So where that question came from is originally I asked, how am I creating a lack of growth, or I shouldn't say lack of growth, but how am I creating the rate of growth in the business not being greater, something like that, right? How am I creating the obstacle? How am I creating the problem? And that's like a sincere question that I ask all the time. How am I creating this? As a way of seeing what's going on, who I'm being, what I'm doing, so that I can shift it. It's a powerful approach. It's central to my life. It's central to the creating perspective and the work we do. And yet I took that how am I creating this question, and I got the answer. I got this sense that I'm being the bottleneck. And it's like, and then I stopped asking how am I creating this, and I started asking how am I being the bottleneck. And I went from asking it sincerely with presence in a moment where I'm sitting with my journal, and I'm asking it in a way to look at the truth, which is what I'm doing here this Friday morning, tolerating the truth. And then it turned into a habitually asked, unconsciously asked, without meaning asking it without presence, just kind of looping it in my mind, rhetorically asked question. Did I say that twice? Rhetorical questions. So I have this distinction between sincere questions and rhetorical questions. Sincere question is something you're present with, and you're asking it, and you actually answer it, and you're putting energy into answering it. Rhetorical question is a question that you don't actually intend to answer. You're not very present. You're actually just using it as a way to beat yourself up. So I took how am I creating this, and I turned it into how am I being the bottleneck, and I started asking it rhetorically, iteratively, and so that sincere, powerful question actually became a form of self-judgment. And that's when Becky shared what she shared. It was like, holy shit, I thought I'd been asking this as a way of being empowered to create, but I've turned this tool into a weapon, and I've been using it against myself. How am I being the bottleneck? How am I being the bottleneck? And it became a declaration of my disempowered state of being, completely outside of my awareness. Thinking I'm doing something responsible, lacking presence and awareness, and actually doing something that's making me become that which I was concerned I might be in a way that I didn't need to. So I mean, all Becky said is she said, instead of asking how are you being the bottleneck, or just put your focus on your power. And I was like, shit, yes, that's right. I think it is important to tolerate the truth and not just always focus on the positive. But what I did is I went to look at the truth, and I got an idea about how I was being an obstacle. And instead of figuring out what that was and then doing something with it and moving into the positive, I actually got stuck in that loop over and over and over and over again. And the question became a kind of excuse for itself. So it's a super subtle point, but for those of you who are students of our work or are clients of ours and have done this work, can you see how in sometimes subtle ways you are taking a question that is sincere and has power in it, and you're starting to ask it in a way where you have a little bit less presence, or there's an assumption in it, and you're not actually engaged in it in a way that you're willing to actually answer it. It's become rhetorical and iterative, and that question went from being sincere and powerful to insincere, rhetorical, and disempowering. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for listening. It's Friday, a great day to tolerate the truth. I'll leave you with Nietzsche's quote. It's my favorite from last year. I don't have a new favorite this year yet, but something will come. And anyway, the strength of a person's spirit would then be measured by how much truth he could tolerate, or more precisely, to what extent they must have it sweetened, muted, diluted, disguised, or falsified. So ask yourself questions that confront you with the truth. Be sincere in that inquiry. Get to the bottom of it, and then move yourself into a more empowered position. I love you. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon.